watching SKST Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of SKST Radio. You're talking with Entertainment 101 with Cammie Grayson and friends, and I have a new friend, Mr. Joel Soisson. Did I say it right?
You said almost perfectly.
All right. Woo! Well, welcome, Joel, to the show. I mean, people know
Thank
of
you.
your work, and I am just so honored to have you here today. And when I saw all the great works that you do, I'm like, why don't I know you already? Why is that? So, but that's
In
okay.
our other life, we know each other.
That's right. Well, welcome to the show. Joel, tell people how you got started in your craft.
Well, I'm got to remember that was a long time ago now. But
Don't date us.
yeah, I think it was pretty much that old story of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I wanted to be a space physicist.
Okay.
And then the math part just killed me. Couldn't do it. So had to pick something else. And the next thing I really wanted to do was movies. Because
Nice.
that way you can pretend to be in space and you don't have to do any of the math. So it just totally suited me. But, I had to get there. So, it's like getting a foot in any door. You have to either kick it in or you have to like slide under that little narrow gap in the bottom of the door. And that's what I did.
Oh, wow.
Just sort of like, what do you need? I'll do it, And then one day there was a producer named Sandy Howard who had done all these really kind of funky exploitation films back in the 80s. Your parents might remember them, Cammie. The Avenging Angel and Hollywood Vice Squad, and going back even further to A Man Called Horse. But anyway, he was thinking, I want to do a little dog movie, kind of like The Incredible Journey, where this dog gets lost in an airport in New York and gets separated from his elderly mistress, and she goes back to LA without him, and he decides he's going to like just four-leg it all the way across the country. But he just had brought it up as like, well, that would make a cool story, but didn't have any idea what to do with it. And I went home, scribbled out 2 pages. I wasn't even a writer then, but I just thought, hey, this might be something he'd be interested in. And I pitched it to him and he liked it, didn't trust me as a writer. So he said, okay, you take him from New York to New Jersey and I'll write the rest. And so that was my part of the movie. And that part of the movie, we cast later on. I got to be an associate producer, some kind of almost producer on the movie. Okay. And we cast O.J. Simpson as this truck driver who picks up little Hambone, his name was. The movie was Hambone and Hilly with Lillian Gish, who was one of the great silent film actresses of all time. That's how long ago this was. This was a talkie though. But so O.J. picks up the little dog. He's a truck driver. They go off on part of the journey across New York State or New Jersey Turnpike. And all the while he's talking to this dog about, life and, how he, his wife had walked out on him and he's kind of doesn't know what to do now. And it was just like a sad OJ. Mm-hmm. And a really charming OJ. And at that time, I thought this guy was just the greatest. I was like, whoa, I got OJ in my first movie. Woo! I've made it. I thought at that point he was doing those running through the airport commercials. I don't know if you remember those. But,
I do. The Hearst.
Hearst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hertz. And anyway, OJ went on a slightly different trajectory after that, but I kept at it and then did a little writing, little producing, little directing, and then got old.
Okay, so what was your very first movie that you were very proud of and felt very accomplished?
Wow. That's a really interesting and strange question because I finish every movie, almost all of them, thinking this is really good, and then I have to find out from other people whether it really was or not, and sometimes they aren't. And certainly that was what happened with Bill and Ted, which is obviously a film that a lot of people have heard of, but that was a film that originally, when we finished the movie, the executives at the company were hating on that so bad, not
Really?
funny, not anything that we can release. It's just a complete disaster. You've taken our money and just squandered it, kind of thing. And I felt really, really terrible. It's that thing in a theater, if you're sitting next to somebody who's really enjoying the film, that feeling you get, well, even if it's a mediocre movie, you're kind of vibing off that other guy.
Right,
And
right.
I'm kind of liking it, but if they're just sitting next to you and they're looking at their phone, or they're just restless and just, this is a piece of junk, and that's infectious. It's what happens how you feel about your own work. And it wasn't until this little company picked up the film and tested it in New Jersey, and it was just through the roof numbers. People were loving it, but it was young people, it was speaking to them. It wasn't a movie for old people. It was a movie for an audience of college kids and students and people from all walks of life, but it was just funny. And as you know, it took off. And I went from like disowning the movie in a way emotionally to like embracing it and going, yeah, we did that. It was pretty cool. And, but it can switch on you that fast.
Right, right. Well, so let's talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. How was that? I mean, that was a good group, because this was 2, right?
Yeah. I had done a little forgettable horror film that starred who did it star? It was Maxwell Caulfield and Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek. that was kind of cool. Anyway, careful I start reminiscing too much, but
You're good.
The guy Bob Shea, who produced the Nightmare series, he asked me to come over and produce the follow-up to the first one. And all I had to do, like anybody, is watch that first Nightmare on Elm Street, and like, I need to be a part of this. It was good. And it's something different when you work on a sequel, when it's not your own vision or your own, you're not there at the inception. It's kind of like a car pulls up in your driveway and you got to drive it, but it's somebody else's car, but all you're doing is a little bit of the steering. And it's both fun and daunting and, a little intimidating, because I just didn't want to break the franchise. I didn't want to mess it up. And so we made a slightly different approach to the Nightmare theme, I guess. But it was also super successful, just like the first one. And unlike the first one, where the studio had basically gambled all their money and given away all their rights just to get the movie made, this time it was actual pure profit for the studio. And it pretty much put New Line as a studio on the map. And they went on to make all sorts of, stuff from Ninja Turtles to that one with the little hobbity guys that run around, those 3 big films. The Lord Rings. Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Rings of the Lord. Lords of the Ring. Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do a film called Rings of the Lord, and then I'm just gonna cash in because people are gonna think they're going to see Lord of the Rings, and it's really going to be just a faith-based thing. But anyway, that's for another day.
Okay, so now fast forwarding. So what is the last movie, not the one that we're talking about today, but was the last movie before this one?
I, somewhere in the last decade, decided I was getting a little worn out from just doing horror movies. And so I started trying my hand at some different things. And, I did a little Hitchcockian drama called Girl Missing that played of all places on Lifetime, which I thought, I'm never going to work on a Lifetime movie. You'll never catch me. Still don't watch Lifetime movies, but it was a whole lot of fun. Because they were just like, yeah, whatever you want to do, as long as it's about a family and there's some crazy person in the family and that crazy person jeopardizes somebody. And it all turns out right in the end. Go do whatever you want. And we did. And it was fun making, I guess it's the closest, almost making a soap opera, but we did it with this whole Hitchcockian flair of, drawing out the mystery and no heads rolled and, nobody was shot into orbit, but it was fun.
Well, I like Hitchcock. He's good.
Yeah, so do I.
He has some good storytellers. So let me ask you this: what about your support system? What type of support system you had throughout the years to help you family wise?
Well, I've had a lovely wife for, she's going to kill me, I think 38 years, 37. You'll edit that out and put the right date in.
Okay, I'll do that for you.
Thank you. We don't have any kids, but I've always felt like every movie I do, I've got 73 very needful kids who are swarming me like baby birds needing worms. And it's totally just sucked up all that parental energy that I might have had if I was ever a parent. And but to have that one person in your life that continues on that journey with you the whole time, and just without even thinking, at a certain point, they know what's wrong and what's right and how to support that. And I just, that's my crutch and my foundation. And I wish it for everyone that somebody, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a family member or, your Domino's pizza guy, somebody that you can call up in a bad time and lean on, which we all have them,
So fast forward now to the movie that we're about to show the trailer for, with your permission, of course.
Of course.
How did you come up with the concept?
I was doing what I often get hired for most, which was to direct and write a horror thriller called Cam to Cam, and we shot it in Bangkok, Thailand. And it really dealt with sort of the sleazy underbelly of Bangkok, which is, not a theme that particularly attracted me. The story did. It was an interesting story, but what is interesting about Bangkok is what makes Bangkok sleazy is not Thai people. It's all the foreigners who come to exploit the locals in Bangkok, and just the cheap prices and the 24-hour bar scene and all of that. And so what was really, the movie was about a bunch of just despicable Americans and a couple of Europeans who get together to cause murder and mayhem in Bangkok. And I think it worked out pretty well. Cam to Cam, if anybody wants to see it on the internet, I think you'll enjoy it. But I was talking to the producer, a wonderful woman named Cheriwan Tavoranan. And she just, one day got to telling me about her life and growing up in northern Thailand near the Cambodian border, tiny little village, and what she did and her friends for recreation. And it was this sport called buffalo racing. And you'll see it a little bit in the trailer. It's this very gonzo kind of like the Kentucky Derby, but it's just totally nuts because these kids are on top of like stampeding buffaloes, sometimes like dozens of them, and holding on for dear life. There's no like bridles or saddles or anything to like hang on to. You're just barebacking it all the way and falling off every which way and just trying not to get trampled. And I was listening to her telling me that these are like 8-year-old kids, and I'm going like, how did any of them survive to procreate? I mean, there shouldn't even be a Thai society left, but they did. They managed, and was crazy fun. And so it was a very peculiar universe she was describing. And what I wanted to do was like use my kind of instincts as a horror filmmaker, a sci-fi guy, And just imagine somebody who's from LA, this 13-year-old, difficult child who's like gone through some personal crises and is just a tyrant in her family and gets shipped off to her crazy grandmother in northern Thailand. And she feels like she has been dropped like Matt Damon on Mars into this completely alien environment and forced to survive. And so that's kind of the context that I was working in, where what would you do if you were just thrown into this environment where people are speaking gibberish to you, they're doing this crazy dangerous stuff, and the school kids are bullying you, and there is just this living nightmare of survival for a tween girl. And we're going to call it in some fashion a coming of age story, because somehow she's going to come through this gauntlet in one piece.
Nice.
And that was the genesis of it. It wasn't exactly this producer's story, but it was certainly her inspiration.
Wow. Wow. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and view the trailer so people can have an idea of what you're talking about.
Okay.
You remember growing with some guy in Thailand? She really wants to see you. I said she really wants... I said she really wants to see
That expression gets you.
This girl was magical.
They said you're done talking. At eccentric.com.
Oh,
Life in
that is
Thailand.
hilarious.
This girl was pretty remarkable because she actually never acted a day in her life, and she had just walked into an audition that we were
You remember growing with some guy
setting
in
up in some little town up in the north, and she just kind of, because there's no dialogue in the movie from either kid. They're both mute, so it's all done with expressions and actions and
Oh, wow.
telling the story through their emotions. And she just blew me away, because I think part of it was her own life somewhat tracked with the experiences of the girl in the story, but she tapped into a universe of emotions that I had no idea you could even access at that age. It was
Wow.
really pretty profound.
That was one of my questions. The cast looks so adorable. I was wondering how you were able to cast those
Well,
children.
well, fortunately, I had a really great team behind me on the film. Choryawan, who I just mentioned, and also another producer named Raymond Huber was this crazy Austrian guy, expat, who had come to Bangkok to scuba dive and have some fun and fell into filmmaking. But they had really great instincts in rounding up cast, and most of the other actors in the movie are pretty solid professional actors who work a lot in Thailand, including the little boy.
Okay.
Unlike the girl who had never worked a day in her life as an actor, even in like a high school play or you know, in the shower. I don't think she'd ever done anything. This little kid, he was what, 12, and I think he was already a veteran, had done more movies than I had. So that was nice, but still, they all speak Thai. I did not.
Mhm.
So, it was very, again, like being the girl in the movie, as I'm sitting there like trying to communicate without words, because
Yeah.
words are pretty pointless. Sometimes
Yeah.
you have an interpreter, sometimes you don't, and most of the time you just go like
Yeah.
more or less, and good.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, the story is adorable. I mean, it looks like it's going to be one of those. To me, it seemed like it could be almost be a great holiday movie. You know.
It could be. It's heartwarming is too like trite a word. Um, Heartburning, maybe.
And funny. I mean, I know it's a lot of those scenes just from the trailer had me cracking up. Her running to the bus. You
Yeah,
know.
that there's a good bit of humor, I think, to keep it going. We had the benefit of, right before the COVID outbreak, because you don't get to do this anymore, is going on the festival circuit, and going from theater to theater and having that experience of sitting in a dark room with like 300 people who are on their feet yelling and laughing and screaming at the because it's a race movie too, so
Yeah.
you get all caught up in that, and by the time the big race happens, you're in love with this kid and you really want him to win, and uh there's no guarantee that's going to happen in this film. So there's a lot of that kind of energy that you feel that, it's a whole nother discussion for another day. But what we've lost not having this regular connection to movie theaters, and suddenly we're now having that experience by ourselves or with a couple people in a room, with you know, our laptop open over here and staring at our phones and waiting for the pizza guy. It's not the same.
It's not. It's not. So do you think it's going to ever get back the same, or is this going to be the new
I
norm?
I would throw that back at you by just asking when was the last time you went to a movie?
It's been a while.
Yeah, for me it has as well, and I think that's really the answer. All the answer that you need is, um, people aren't just venturing out, and I think it's going to become habitual. Once you get out of the rhythm of like, hey, what's playing this week? I don't even know now. Personally, I'm a filmmaker. This is my business, and I couldn't tell you what's on the marquee of my local cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's
here it's not very many cinemas still functioning.
Yeah,
We lost a big Cinemark not too long ago at the local mall, and it's kind of like, wow. They had been a staple in this community for a while, and they
and the
lost
next step is you might lose the local mall too,
it.
because that's it's just the world is changing in that way, and in some respects, good. I mean, we're accessing a whole lot more films that we would have never seen before.
Hmm.
But independent films, the non-studio Marvel movies, the non-Marvel movies that aren't in theaters, are having a harder time finding their audience, because there used to be a whole lot of independent theaters that supported, the independent movies that are being made, just great films that are not getting showcased anymore, and you have to go searching for them,
Right.
or they have to just, like, as you sit there mindlessly scrolling through Netflix, one of them flashes in front of you and you go, oh, I'll give that a go.
Yeah, exactly. So what can you give, what type of advice can you give to other producers who are just starting out?
I always tell them to just be ready to say yes to everything, except obviously anything that's morally or socially unacceptable. But if it has to do with being exploited in a work sense, I know this sounds horrible, but just do it. If somebody asks you to work, round the clock, taking care of the star's hamster, do it, because the trick is just being in the universe of a film. And sooner or later, if you have some skills and you start watching and learning, you're going to be there when they need something more important. And then you go in and say, I can help you with that. And I can help you with that. And that's pretty much, for me and a lot of producers I know, is we're the last man standing,
Right.
that other people went off and did this and this and this and this, and then you were left going, or the big boss was left with, like, at one point, a whole movie he needed to get made. Started off with, like, the main producer was off making movie A, and this guy needed a budget, right?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know how to do a budget, but it's not brain surgery, right? You just, like, count the costs of doing various things, and you put them into a program. But and you screw up a lot, and you do some crazy stuff, but it teaches you things, and at a certain point, I ended up making a lot of movies I wouldn't normally make, because they weren't my ideas, but they were things that people wanted me to do. And
Mhm.
uh, that's the road I took. I took the incremental, inch by inch by inch kind of approach. There are those people who do it the much easier way. And the much easier way is to find a script or an idea or a book or an article in a magazine that would make a brilliant movie, and find, by either money, which always talks, or
Mhm.
your powers of persuasion, to be able to option that story. And then suddenly you go, you want this story, which will be the next Lord of the Rings? Got to hire me,
Mhm.
and I'm your producer.
Right.
And they'll go, of course, whatever you want, sir, because they want that. It's that old story that which is really insulting to my profession, but a producer is nothing but a dog with a good script tied to his collar. And
Oh,
that is one way of looking at it. But you need that really good script, and that's the
Mhm.
coin of the realm in our business. It's what everyone craves. That, and of course, one of the 10 guaranteed marquee names that make your movie a hit. So that's really the only advice I could give, is just stay in the business and stick around people who make movies, and do whatever it is they need to move yourself forward, or find this brilliant movie. And I didn't find the film. Actually, I had at that point a development exec assistant guy find it for me. But Bill and Ted's was this remarkable script that it transformed my career, just because we happened to recognize that it was good, and
Yeah, you
said,
know how to do
we
this.
have the yes, exactly. That even came through in the page, in the writing. But yeah, it's I think that really applies to anything in life, though, doesn't it? It's just, if you want it bad
Yes,
enough, you're just going to fight tooth and nail to get it.
right, right. So my final question for you, my friend,
Hmm.
what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? my wife, my dog, and a good movie. Doesn't
Ah,
have to be mine. Doesn't have to be mine. If I can sit down for 2 hours and watch something that just transports me out of this COVID nightmare
I
that we
know.
all live in, all the better. All the
Right.
better. And so right now, the happy place is that little shiny box that makes pictures move. That's kind of where I'm at. And that makes me
Mhm.
maybe a boring boy. I used to be like, travel makes me happy, going to new cultures and new places and like landing in a foreign country and seeing the sights and the history and all that stuff. And I still want to get back to that, but
Yes.
now it's the little blinking box
Yeah. I'm
that
with
makes
you
me
on
happy.
that one. I'm with you on that one. But Joel, it's been a pleasure meeting with you and hanging out with you tonight. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank
sharing
you,
your world
Cammy.
with our world. I'm here for you if you ever need me. If you have anything coming that you want to actually promote extra, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much. And just hearing the good works that you're doing has really been inspiring me this whole time. So keep at it.
Well, thank you. I will. I will. Okay. Until next time. Thank you, Joel. We
Bye
appreciate you
bye.
and we will get the word out. Okay, guys,
All
go see
right.
the movie. It's coming out. It should be, what was it? It's 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's video on demand, streaming
Uh-huh.
services. You can find it on Twitter and Facebook. Did I miss anything else?
No, just Google it.
Just
You'll
Google
see.
it.
It's
So,
there.
my best worst adventure. It's fun. It's adorable. And you guys tag me. It's on YouTube to see the trailer. If you have any questions, I will get back with you to make sure that you see this movie and give it a good review because you're going to love it. All right, Joel.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Until next week, everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thanks, Cammy.
Thank you, Joel.